This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. This is your host, Heather Bayer, and as ever, I'm super delighted to be back with you once again. So if you've been listening lately, you'll know that we've been going deep into what it really takes to lead in this industry, not just in terms of strategy and operations, but through the lens of company culture. And this is why I am bringing back today an episode that we published some time ago, maybe about a year ago, but it's especially close to my heart because it really fits in to this current leadership series. So this is a conversation with Rachel Alday of Abode Luxury Rentals, and it's really timely because Rachel and her team at Abode have built a culture that truly lives and breathes their values. And in this episode, she shares exactly how that translates to team loyalty, to operational excellence, and unforgettable guest experiences. And even if you've listened to this episode before, it really is worthwhile taking another listen because there is so many gems in this. And this message has become even more relevant as we've been working alongside the amazing leadership team at Casago over the last sort of 3 months or so on their internal culture training, and seeing firsthand how intentional efforts to build and nurture culture can ripple through a business. You know, when you do that, it strengthens teams, it elevates service, and it deepens trust. And doing all that has just been truly inspiring. So it doesn't matter if you're leading a team of 5, if you're just leading a cleaning team, you've got 1 or 2 properties and you have a cleaning team, or whether you're leading a team of 50 or more. If you have a vision right now on where you want to take your business and your company with you as a leader, I encourage you to listen with fresh ears, because strong company culture is not just a nice to have. In today's era of short-term rentals and vacation rentals, it's got to be the foundation. You need the company culture because once it's embedded, it becomes the foundation for everything else you do. So let's revisit this powerful conversation with Rachel Alday, and you can come back later and let me know what you think of it. So super happy to have with me today Rachel Alday from Abode Luxury Vacation Rentals. Welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
It was great to meet you face-to-face in Boise. That was such fun. That was a really good conference, I thought. What about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I didn't really know what to expect because I hadn't gone to that before, but I loved it. And now I'm so excited that they're becoming VR Nation and that we'll all be going to more conferences like that.
I know, more and more conferences. You just come back from a conference. Tell us about that.
I did. Yeah, I went to Women Leading Travel and Hospitality, and it was their 2nd annual. This year was in Charlotte. I think last year was Nashville. And like I said, I didn't go last year, but this is my first year. I did not know what to expect because it was like C-suite people from Hertz, Expedia, Marriott, Hilton, all that kind of stuff, which is not really our usual VR vacation rental sort of group. But it was cool, actually. And it was really inspiring. And I met some really interesting people. So I liked it. I think I would go again.
Were there any other vacation rental folks there?
One, Julie Bird from Cabo Villas, and they actually just got bought by Nocturne. So that was really interesting because it was really cool to see what Nocturne is doing and then to get to know Julie better. I've talked to her, but I'd never met her in person. And she does vacation rentals, the same like sort of caliber of vacation rentals that we do, more high-end stuff, but in Cabo. And so, yeah, it was great to get to hang out with her too.
Oh, yeah. I keep thinking it would be nice to go to a conference that is not 100% vacation rentals and just get, just get a vision of life from the outside.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it made me really grateful for the industry that we're in. I've been talking to Megan Moylan about this a ton, but it's like, I don't know, you probably agree, but I feel like we have all these really cool people in our industry because it's such like a sort of mom and pop shop origin story for most of the companies that have been around since before COVID. And so that creates like this really cool groups of people that are, I don't know, a lot more down to earth and like authentic than most conferences. And I used to, before we started this business, my husband and I did work in marketing with like Coca-Cola, McDonald's. So I know that whole corporate world. And that's why I love the vacation rental industry so much, because it's not that. And I love our industry and I love our conferences because everyone is so down to earth and so real. So this conference was cool and it was inspirational and interesting, but it honestly made me all the more grateful for the industry that I'm in, because our conferences are like so much more meaty and so much more, we really talk about like tactics and real business things and not just the inspirational part, which is also helpful, but our industry is so interesting and so different. And sometimes I think, maybe I think our industry is different and special because it's my industry. And so maybe I'm just thinking that because I'm, idealizing what I do. But then I go to this conference and it was a great conference and the people were great. But I was like, I left it thinking, I am so glad I work in the industry and the kind of business that I do. I don't want to deal with the corporate stuff that's so much more prevalent, in other industries. And I love how ours is unique the way it is. And,
yeah, I'm really with you on that. And, we're going to be heading back into conference season again. It's almost like it's not really stopped, but just a couple of months and we'll be back into it again. You mentioned origin story. So, this is what I'd like to kick off with you is your origin story, because you mentioned mom and pop. And it's interesting because that's been used almost in a derogatory way.
Totally.
And I think the majority of businesses, I do this with every podcast, every interview. How did you start? And everybody, then 80% of people started in exactly the same way, which is that mom and pop had my own property, it grew, or my parents had a property and it grew from that. So, I love these stories. What's yours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think these stories are the secret sauce for our industry, honestly. But samesies. So my husband and I, we weren't even married at the time. We were dating, about to be married. And my husband had this condo that was like mountainside condo in Park City at Deer Valley. And he was in real estate. And that was when everything was tanking because we've been in business for about 15 years. And so he was looking for like what he was going to do next. And at the time I was working for Coca-Cola. And I was working in a marketing role, and he was looking at what he was going to do next because the real estate stuff wasn't so hot. And so he had said, well, I think what I want to do is do property management. A couple of his clients from real estate had asked if he could, because he lived, in Park City, they had asked if he could take care of the house and maybe do a few rentals. Because as we know, at that time, there were rentals, but it wasn't that hot. So it was like, can you put my house on VRBO and can you take care of it? And so he was like, I think what I'm going to do is just manage a couple. It was like 3 properties. I think it was like one homeowner that had 2 and then another homeowner that had 1. So it was like 3 properties that he was going to take care of and then do the rentals for a percentage. And he was like, that's what I want to do. And I honestly thought it was a terrible idea because I was like, well, it sounds like a ton of dirty work for pennies. And I wanted him, and this is funny now, especially with all these movies coming out about this topic, but I wanted him to be a pharmaceutical salesperson because people were doing pharmaceutical sales. They were making so much money. And the pharmaceutical salespeople were always these attractive young people that they were hiring. My husband is highly attractive, in my opinion, but I think in general. And so I was trying to push him to go interview for a job in pharmaceutical sales, and he was having none of it. And so he decided no, I want to do vacation rental stuff. And I was like, okay, fine. You know what? I had this really great job with Coca-Cola and I had really good benefits and a good salary. So I was like, it's fine. You can try it out. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, we have a way to sustain ourselves. And so anyway, as is usually the case with my husband and I was wrong. He was right. And here we are. So it was definitely...
I'm so sorry you just said that because
well, he is right a lot of the time.
Yeah, but my husband edits this podcast. He's going to hear this.
That's funny. I know. Well, my husband is quiet and he's patient and he's not like a big talker. So we're obviously the yin and the yang. And so, I mean, the thing with him is like, he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, a lot of times he's right. So anyway, he was, and our business started slow. I didn't quit my job with Coke right away. I just was helping and doing the marketing and stuff. And he was really like the person that was arranging the housekeepers and meeting all the guests and checking all the houses and, all that stuff for a few years. And then once we had our first child, my job with Coca-Cola, I had to travel a ton. So after I had my first kid, I knew that probably wouldn't work out. And so then I didn't go back after I had my first child. And that's when we both started like really being in the trenches together. And now here we are. And so it was totally organic. It wasn't like we sat down and had like strategy meetings. We didn't have like a trust fund or any investment. We just, as is a lot of the stories from our wonderful industry, we just bootstrapped it. And we never even thought about hiring any employees like ever. I remember when we hired our first employee, I was freaking out. And I think the first person was like $10 an hour. And I remember like, we cannot do this. We can't afford it. We cannot hire this part-time $10 an hour person. But anyway, here we are. And now we have closer to 60 employees and we manage over 200 properties across 3 markets. And it all just happened slowly and organically. And I love it. I love that that's how it happened. And I'm so proud of it. And I really do feel such a connection to a lot of people in our industry. And there are a lot of newer people too that are doing really cool stuff because of all the great technology we have now. But, I love both sides of it. I love the long gamers, like the OG crowd who, we did all this when we barely had any software and we were all operating in complete vacuums, barely even knowing that each other existed. And then now today where we have conferences and software, and it's so cool to see where it came from and where it's going to.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you started, did you start with a set of values? Did you start by thinking, okay, we're going to have this culture. When we get this first employee, we're going to explain it to this person and they're going to embrace everything. How did you go about growing to where you are now and keeping your foundational values in place?
Mostly by accident, to be real. So we did not right off the bat have an inkling about company culture. And that's just the honest truth. I know that, what we believed from the very beginning is that we wanted to only manage higher end properties and we wanted to maintain a smaller portfolio with just higher end properties so that we could deliver more of like a luxury service. We knew that from the beginning. We felt like that was the thing that was missing, that, there were some really good companies in Park City where we started, Park City, Utah, but no one was offering, they were talking about luxury, but no one was offering luxury the way that we thought it should be offered, which is more along the lines of like a luxury, 4 or 5-star hotel. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we saw as the area that wasn't being fulfilled. So we knew we wanted to do that. But to be honest, I don't think we really got the company culture piece right off the bat. And like I said, we didn't think about that probably because we didn't even think about employees. It was really just us and our relationship and whatever. And then it was more, I think it's like 5 years into it, maybe a little less than that, but at least 3 or 4 years into it when we started to think about company culture, because we had a couple employees at that point. And we were wanting to impart not only the concept of like urgency, because a lot of our guests are from urban markets, but they're coming out into these mountain towns. They're expecting the sense of urgency that they're used to from an urban place, but they're not finding it. And so I'm from Chicago originally. And so we were trying to instill in our staff the concept of urgency and how our guests, what our guests sense as urgency and how we can respond to that, appropriately. And also about luxury and, trying to impart to our staff what luxury means, how can they provide a luxury experience for guests, and how, the different ways that luxury can be perceived and experienced and all of that. But it wasn't until a few years into it that we had a few more employees. And then we read this book called Delivering Happiness. And it's by Tony Hsieh. And Tony Hsieh is the guy that started Zappos. And then Zappos had this amazing company culture where they really put the customer first. And they were really obsessed with like going above and beyond. It's so much along the lines of Unreasonable Hospitality and what he talks about in that book, Will Guidara's book, where he talks about like that wow factor and being able to perceive what people are dreaming about or wishing for and then making it happen. So in Zappos, it's slightly different, right? Because Unreasonable Hospitality is like more of a restaurant approach. And then Zappos was more of this like really big online company that ended up being a shoe company, and then even more than that, and then got bought by Amazon. So we kind of stole the company culture statement. And when I say kind of, I mean, we actually did, from Delivering Happiness. So at one point we wanted to have a company culture statement in our little employee handbook that was like 3 pages or something. And we copy pasted from Delivering Happiness. And then it's super crazy because so over the years, then company culture, definitely became more and more important for us. And so like 5 years into it. So we've been in Park City. We started our business like 15 years ago. So let's say it's like 4 or 5 years into it that we start looking at company culture. We read the book and we're like really impressed by that book. It was like became our little Bible or whatever. And then I would say, let's see, right before COVID is when we had about, I think it was like 32 employees, 34, something like that, right before COVID. And we suddenly realized we have an amazing team. Here we are, we're operating at this point, right before COVID, we were operating in Jackson Hole as well as Park City. So we expanded to Jackson Hole about 10 years ago. So we had our 2 markets, and we have 32 people in Park City, and we had 3 people in Jackson Hole. And they were all just like really good people. And we've been keeping our team. Our team members have stayed with us, a lot of them, for like, they've been with us for, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. It's amazing. And so we just had no idea how that happened. We kind of looked around and we were like, we have an amazing team and we have no idea how we got here. And so I had read this other book, and actually in the Tony Hsieh book, Delivering Happiness, he talks about how he built this library for his team, and he had these, I think it was 10 books, but I could be wrong on that number exactly. And he had these books that he really wanted everyone on his team to read. And if people on the team read one of the books, he would have them do this little report, and then he would pay them for it. And then he lists out the books in like the company library. And so I remember the first one I read. Now I can't remember if it's the first one on the list, or if I just decided to read this book first, but it was called Tribal Leadership. Which is another book. I'm like a book obsessed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think in Boise you mentioned tribal leadership, and I immediately downloaded that one. So
I love it. It's so good. So I read Tribal Leadership, and it really struck a chord. It talks about people have different stages in their life, especially like in their life as, a leader or like within your job. And anyways, it does talk about, there's just one stage where you're like really concerned with your competitors and sort of negative towards them. And I won't get into it too much more, but I felt, oh, whoa, that's me. I'm doing that. And so it really helped me change and not be so focused on my competitors, but more like finding ways to speak positively about my competitors and just differentiate on my own and not try to, you don't need to put anyone else down in order to succeed. And it sounds so simple, but anyway, it was a big thing for me. So I got the recommendation of that book from Tony Hsieh's book. I read it, and that was around the same time that we were realizing that we had this great team, but we had no idea how we got them, because like when I interview people, I literally just yammer on like I am right now. And then ask them a few questions. I basically just have a conversation, and I decide like if in my gut it feels like a good match or not, and then we do it or not. And so it's like just talking at people. How did we end up with such a good team? So anyway, read the Tribal Leadership book, loved it. I got so obsessed that I reached out to the author. Like I went on LinkedIn and I did all this research, and I found the author, and I reached out and sent an email, and I was like, I love your book, and I wanted to know if he would consider consulting. Like, who do I think I am at this point? I'm going to reach out to this somewhat significant author and get him to talk to my team. Like, I don't know, but I'm just like that. I think I just, I get an idea and I just go for it regardless. So anyway, his name's Dave Logan. There was a couple authors on that book, but he was the main author, and I got a hold of his team, and he reached back out, and they had a consulting arm of their business. So his wife, Hart Logan, along with this other woman, Lenny Jones. And so these 2 women I met through reading Tribal Leadership and then reaching out. Anyways, they have become our consultants. And they, at the time, were working with the consultant company that was created from Tribal Leadership, but they now have their own separate company. Anyway, they came on right before COVID as a consultant to my husband and I. And originally it was more like coaching for us, for us to sort of figure out how we how do we get these amazing group of people together? And like, how do we keep them now? And how do we keep hiring awesome people? But then COVID happened. It got a little crazy. And during COVID, this is like, I feel like this is so my life, like just these weird happenstance things that like just circles of life that like intersect and stuff. But during COVID, Tony Shea, who has since passed away, unfortunately, but he had come out to Park City right before COVID for Sundance. And then he had stayed, and then COVID happened. And so he was like stuck here. And he ended up buying, I think, 13 properties in Park City, which is a lot, really nice properties. And we ended up getting in touch with him because of those properties and some other stuff that he was doing. And also because we own this laundromat, the only laundromat in Park City, because we bought it to do our linen. So we do our own linen processing at this laundromat overnight. And anyway, he had bought houses, and his team was having my laundromat team do the linens, right? And so somehow I realized Tony Shea is here in Park City. He owns some houses, and he's a client of the laundromat. Anyways, he ended up becoming a client of ours, and we ended up taking on management for all of these properties and working with his team. And then, and my husband and I actually got to meet with him and have meetings with him a couple times, and some, go out to dinner and have lunch. And it was like the coolest thing ever, because he was such an inspiration to us way before that. And he was like the real origin story of our company culture idea came from him. Anyway, he ended up, he wasn't in the best place of his life when he came out to Park City, and he ended up passing away really sadly. We still currently manage all those properties for his estate. It's one of the coolest things about my history and my husband and I owning this business is how that all happened. And it's really sad what happened to him, but it's really crazy that, there was that connection there.
It sounds like serendipity and coincidence and manifestation all rolled up. I love it.
It's so crazy, right? I totally believe in manifestation. And it's like not the kind of manifestation where you can like force it, but just the kind of manifestation where like when you're staying positive and you're like, trying to do the best you can, none of us are perfect. But when we're trying to do the best that we can, we're trying to put good out into the world. And we have good ideas that are helpful, not just for us, not just to make money, but for everyone that we touch. The good things happen. It's like, it's completely real. And it's crazy. I want to study more about that too when I have a moment, which I don't know when that will be.
I love it. Manifest, I think about this a lot, and, how, I've manifested things over my lifetime, like moving to Canada, starting businesses, and looking back and thinking, I wrote this down. This was in a 5-year plan. I wrote this down, and here I am, and it's all manifested. And it's, so you and I are definitely on the same page. We should have this discussion.
Yeah.
Perhaps sit down with sit down with Valerie as well. Valerie Ganges.
Yes, Valerie Ganges. Yes. Like, I only met her not too long ago. And like, I feel such a connection with her because she's on our page too. Yeah. Valerie Ganges, because she wrote In Deep Shift, which is like, I have a whole other story about meeting her, and I'm working on a book now because, literally, it's so crazy how things happen. But okay, I am a squirrel with my ability to stay on topic. So I'm sorry.
All right, I just want to go back. So the team, they were doing fabulously, and you didn't know how they got there. So you hired consultants, and they help you sort of reverse engineer and go back and figure out what had happened, what you did with them. How did that work?
Yes. Okay. So they came on initially and they were coaching my husband and I. And one of the first things they did was the Enneagram test with us. Do you know what the Enneagram is? All right. So I hate personality tests. A lot of times I feel like some of those tests are just sort of self-fulfilling. It's like, I'm a maverick. And it's like, it's like, of course I am, I don't know. It feels like a little bit like of an ego boost kind of a thing. And they introduced us to the Enneagram, which initially I was like, okay, whatever. But we did this Enneagram test, and it puts you into a personality type 1 through 9. And it really was really helpful for my husband and I working together because it showed a lot of like the things that we struggle with in communication between each other. And it gave us a lot of tools that were helpful. So I was like bought in after all that. So then we started doing Enneagram testing with our whole team through these consultants. And that became super helpful because it was really interesting to learn about what certain personality types struggle with and how certain number types interact with each other and how it works well or it's hard. So that was really helpful for our whole team. And then these consultants, they've just done a ton with us in terms of coaching for my husband and I, but also for our team members. One of them is a coach and one of them is a therapist. So they've been immensely helpful with us sort of learning how to figure out where to put people on the team and how to help people have a good growth path so that they stay motivated and they stay with us for a long time. How to do a better job interviewing and making sure we're communicating really clearly about what the position is and what our company culture is and what our, how we feel about the kind of people we want on the team and making sure we're getting those people to join us. With our company culture, there is this really strong component about like treating each other like family. I think the way we name it in our values is deep roots grow. And my husband and I, obviously we're married. We started the company together. My sister works here. She's worked here for 10 years. One of our really early employees was actually our previous nanny. And now she runs our operations and she's amazing. And her sister works here as well. One of our first reservation salespeople that we hired, his daughter-in-law works here and she's really moved up through the ranks. We have like a family tree in our office on the wall that shows like everyone, because a lot of people on our team have brought their friends and family onto the team. So then we built this family tree that shows like how everyone is related and how they all got here. And it's been really cool. But so that's, we're a strong part of our values that we've formed with our consultants and also through what we learned from Tony Hsieh's book is, just a lot about like deep roots grow, having each other's back, the value of time over money, because a lot of our team, here we are, we're operating in these ski towns, right? We operate in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Sun Valley, Idaho, and Park City, Utah. And nobody moves to these places for a job. We don't have a pool of people to pull from that came here because they like to work a lot. Like everybody came here because they want to be outside. And so most of our team values their time more than they even value the money that we pay them. So then that's a really interesting concept to work with. And our consultants have helped us with that. Like, how do we encourage, motivate, and inspire people? And it's not money. It's often not through how much they're making. So it's been like a really interesting journey. And I know that if my husband and I didn't have consultants to help us, and I don't, of course, the consultants that we work with, I adore them and they're amazing. But I do feel like companies in the vacation rental industry that are looking to do a better job with their company culture and sort of figure it out. It's like, it's not always like you have to have this certain consultant, but it's like having someone who's focused on that and who has a background in, say, therapy or, life coaching and that kind of stuff. It is immensely helpful because it really can help you to understand where the different people on your team are coming from, what makes them tick, and then how do you account for that? How do you care about that? And how do you get all of your values together where like you have this group of people that can all have a set of values that we all agree on in the business. And whenever the consultants first talked to me about how we needed company values, I was kind of like, look, I have values that I live by, but how am I going to tell other people what their values are? Like, that just seems, I don't know, oppressive. But they, took some time and explained it to us. And it started to make sense. Like, if you get the right people on your team, then those are the kind of people that are going to have similar values to you. And you can all together collaboratively believe in the same thing for what you're doing at work. And I think in the vacation rental space, it matters even more because we need people who get that dopamine hit from helping someone else, right? And that's like a huge thing. When I do a job description, like a listing online, I don't even do those anymore myself. But when I did, I would literally put, do you get a dopamine hit from solving someone else's problem or whatever? Because that's who I want. You want people who get off on making someone else happy, even when it's not easy. And that's like a hard thing to harness and to understand. But I think that's like the magic of the vacation rental industry. And I do think that more and more companies in our space are focusing on this and looking at it. And I think that it could be one of those really defining factors on closing the gap between like hotels and the special ability they have to really achieve within the concept of hospitality and vacation rental. And I think that's one of the main areas that the vacation rental industry has struggled with is achieving consistency with excellent hospitality. And I think part of that comes from a really good company culture.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. You you said it's more recently that you're seeing these companies that are focusing so much more on hospitality. And I mean, you were at the executive summit.
Yeah.
You were there with Robin Cragen,
Yes.
who exemplifies this whole ethos of delivering hospitality first. And I look back 10 or 12 years ago, or when I was in the first sort of 6 or 7 years of my business, that there were a lot of companies out there doing good stuff, but nobody was really sort of standing out saying the guest really, really does come first.
Yeah, I agree. I had this thought recently. I've been pondering this. So backstory on this is, there's the whole concept of like, we had this great team. We did not know how we built it. We wanted to keep them. We didn't know how. So we hired a consultant. We dove into it. We figured that out, right? I mean, not perfectly because whatever, but we did a pretty good job figuring out how that all worked and how we can keep it going. So that feels like, I checked that box, I guess. Like it's a box. It's something that we're always going to have to continue working on, but it was a project we worked on for years and we kind of got there. So now my project is, okay, so I love Robin Cragen. When I heard Robin Cragen on a podcast a couple years ago, again, I had a total epiphany moment, like, oh my gosh, he's doing what we do. Like, here's this man, and he is talking about stuff the way we talk about it in our company. And it was such, we all feel like we're operating in a vacuum, especially before there were a lot of conferences. And you hear someone like Sarah and T, or for me, when I heard Robin Cragen, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like our soulmate. He's out there. And so I, of course, reached out to him and I was like, I have to meet you. We have to hang out. And my husband and I got to know him really well. And so at executive conference, we had dinner with him like 4 nights in a row or something. I feel such a connection with him and his wife and what they're doing. And anyway, so I've been thinking about all of that. And now my next project after figuring out our company culture is hospitality. We're doing a good job. There's a bunch of us out here. We're doing a good job. But what are we doing exactly? Like, how are we doing it? I could say company culture, but there's more meat to it. And I don't understand it yet fully. So that's our next project we've been working on with our consultants is let's explain to ourselves and teach ourselves, what is this? What is the meaning of hospitality? What is the meaning of hospitality and vacation rentals? How are we doing it? Why do we get such good reviews? Like, okay, there's the tactics, but what's the secret sauce behind it? So we have been working on that. And one of the things that I've started to think about within the past couple of weeks is like, and actually it started with being at Executive Summit because the hotel, it was the Boca Raton Hotel. It was so great. And the hospitality was like amazing. And I started to think to myself, if you look at the history of hotels, hotels started as they were more mass available to people. It was a very high-end thing. So a hotel was like a very fancy place, like in a bigger city. And, there was those big brands first, right? And then as the hotels became more and more mass market and proliferated, it kind of went from the top down. And now there's, Hampton Inns and Holiday Inns, and there's tons of that. And they're sort of modeled after that higher end concept, but bringing it down in whatever way possible into this more affordable mass marketed thing. And I think what's interesting is vacation rentals are kind of the opposite. Vacation rentals started with like places where you have to bring your own sheets and there was no marketing, and it was sort of just like find them in the newspaper or like on this, mailer or something. And it started with like a really basic offering, and now it's proliferated up, but it's like we're taking the really basic thing and we're trying to make it bigger and more widespread and more high end, but we're building that high end version oftentimes off of this really basic model. And I think maybe that's where the break is between our ability to offer great hospitality, because we're trying to take something that's sort of more of a service based thing and not as much about hospitality and connection. And we're trying to sort of like paint it with hospitality. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I was there with the, down there at the bottom when guests had to bring their own linens and actually do their own cleaning before they left.
Right.
But it's almost, I mean, to me, it almost seems like there's a bit of an hourglass thing going on. I have this, I mean, my company was not, our properties that we marketed were not all high end, but we felt that we were delivering a luxury service. And I think this is something that needs to come out, that you don't have to have a multi-million-dollar property with absolutely high-end luxury furniture and furnishings. You can still have luxury.
Yes. It's in that authenticity.
It is.
And it's like,
and that's wherein that hospitality lies, to be able to deliver what somebody says, wow, I felt treated like a queen or a king.
Yes. Yeah.
Regardless.
And so that's like what I've been thinking about a lot lately, just about the concept of service, because, service is more like the tactical things that we do. And then hospitality, which I feel like is the going above and beyond, the treating someone very special. And then I think maybe the piece that makes things like, say, the Boca Raton Hotel or that level is more like connection, like a two-way connection with the guest and then the host, right? Where it's like you're really anticipating, but also asking for what people need. And then you're listening to what they say and you're giving that to them. And the guest is, invested in that relationship too. It's not just like they don't care. Like they are starting to care about, like being at that hotel. I was starting to be really interested in the history of that location and that place. And I think that's when you have that true hospitality feeling, is like when there's that back and forth connection. I don't know. I find the whole thing super interesting to think about, because we've all been in the trenches and like slogging it out for all these years. And you finally get to the place where you're like, okay, we know what we're doing. Like somehow we got here, we're doing the thing, but then you want to understand it more. Like you did it. I think it's like we get there, especially in this industry, because we were so fragmented. We're like throwing spaghetti at the wall for years and seeing what sticks and what works. You figure it out because you made so many mistakes that now you know what not to do, and thereby somehow you figured out what you should do. But then it's like a matter of sitting back and taking account of all of that.
Going back to your team and this culture, which seems to be all pervading.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I really wanted you to come on and talk about this was I saw a post you did about your company retreat, where you took people. Your company retreat.
Post about what?
Your company retreat.
Yes.
Where you took your team away, and I think did your consultants go as well? Yes.
Yeah, and they plan that for us every year. Yeah, should I tell you? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, you tell us.
So,
tell us.
I'm such a spazzy talker. Like, I don't know. I'm only going to ever be on like probably 5 podcasts ever in my life, because it's like a one and done. I do it, and then people are like exhausted after they talk to me, because they're like, whoa, she's all over the place. But okay, but the retreat, so that came to us as an idea from our consultants. They really were pushing us to do like an offsite. And of course, I'm sort of anti-corporate everything. So initially I was like, an offsite, like that sounds so corporate and whatever. But it did resonate with me because of the concept of taking them and treating them with something nice and taking them on a little trip and kind of getting out of the grind and figuring some things out. So we found this place in Capitol Reef, which is this smaller national park, and it's like a total hidden gem. And this place that we go to is called the Lodge at Red River Ranch. Again, this is a total hidden gem. If you drove by it, you might not look twice, but it is like the coolest spot ever. And it's like a mini hotel, and I think it has like 18 rooms. So it's, they're all their own bathrooms. It's not like a hostel. It's a little hotel, but it's like a log cabin. They have bison on the property. It's red rock all around and a river. It's so gorgeous. So anyway, it's a really amazing spot that just gives you that feeling that you could manifest something there. I swear. So every year what we do now, I think we just did our 5th year, was this year, of the retreat. So we invite the whole team, and we set like a theme each year. And this year was professionalism. We do have, our team is like, say, early 20s to late 30s, majority of the team. There's some outliers, but that's kind of the majority. And a lot of them haven't worked in super professional jobs before. And a lot of them have worked like in the ski industry or guiding and doing stuff like that. And so we have had to work on some professionalism, and while we're offering an authentic experience in the mountains, there still needs to be some professionalism. So that was our theme this year. But what we do on the retreat that I think is so impactful for the whole team is like, we have our sessions during the day where we talk about the Enneagram, and we kind of talk about how to use what we know about the Enneagram to work better together. But we also just end up spending a bunch of time hanging out in the evenings. And one of our team members, who is amazing, took these great videos just like little clips and then made a little snippet that I posted online, and she put it to music. And it was like so perfect because it showed our team members just really sitting back, relaxing around a fire, like a campfire type thing. All of us on our like camp chairs outside by the mountains. And you could just tell in the video. I mean, I can tell it every day, and I can especially tell it on our retreat, but our team is just like really connected, and you can just see it once they get a chance to relax. And they like really are friends with each other, and they care about each other so much. I could cry. I'm like, don't do that, Rachel. But it's like, it's so cool because that's what makes it work at work, is because our team doesn't just leave at 5 or whatever time and say like, peace, I'm out. If they can't get all the stuff done that they were supposed to get done today, they make sure to like tell the next person, hey, these are the things I couldn't get done today. Can you help me? I'll help you with such and such. They really have each other's back. And that is what the guest can feel. The guest feels like that they're never going to just be ignored or left hanging. There's always, even if someone was helping them and that person has to take off for the evening, it's like they get handed to the next person in a way that is like with a lot of kindness and care. And having our retreats really helps like solidify that, because the team gets to really have these strong relationships, even newer people. And I love it when there's someone new on the team. And a lot of times like they'll be like, I don't know if I can come to the retreat, because I think they're probably nervous. Like everyone's really close and they're going to feel left out, but they come, and it's like usually at the retreat where the newer person just gets fully ingrained, because it's like everyone is just there hanging out, being their true, authentic selves, like arm around each other by the campfire, and everyone's got like a glass of wine, or they're just, people are funny and they do goofy stuff, and you get to see who they really are. It makes such a huge difference. And I know a lot of companies do company retreats in all different ways, and I think there's a lot of ways to do it that are helpful. But I do think having that component where people get to just, like if you were on a trip with your friends and family, and not with the work component, but just having that sense of family with your team, like it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. And it's definitely helped for us with retention, and also just with being able for everyone on the team to, like I said, have each other's back all the time, every day. And I do think doing a company retreat for like a company that has maybe 10 or more people, it's like, wow, it's so worth it. It's expensive, but man, is it worth it. I'm not even sure if I can think of a better way to spend money on our team than on a really good, organized company retreat.
What I love about that is that it says so much about the culture of your company. And then going back to what you're talking about, to this, this new element of extreme hospitality, how much do you feel that culture, that personality of your company reflects in that growth in hospitality?
Yeah, like as you're saying that, I was just thinking like, it's the connection, right? It's like, let's say the retreat, like that is a place and a time where everyone on the team is really connecting, talking to each other about real life and sharing back and forth, like on that human connection level, not for the purposes of work or making money, but just to feel connected and to feel like that's a part of being a human being. And then I think when you can exemplify that to the team through something like a company retreat, it really does. I think probably that makes it easier for them at work to understand how to connect with your customers, right? Because it's like, that's what I'm always trying to impart to them. Like, I want you to connect with the homeowners and the guests, and not just because you're trying to be fake nice or you're just trying to make someone who's pissed off happy, because that's what we do. Like, we want to really find out what these people, what makes them tick, who are they? And then we want to tell them who we are, and we want them to care who we are, and we want to care about who they are, and just like true connection. And I think through company culture, where you can teach your team about connecting with each other and not having a work environment where it's like work is work and friends are friends. Like when I'm at work, I'm working and my social life is separate. And I'm not saying go out and build a cult like organization, but I am saying, and I say this to people when we hire them all the time, like, I don't want to hire people who just want to come to work and they don't want to have an additional relationship with their team. I want to have a team that comes to work and feels connected to the people they work with. And I do think company retreat is creating that. And then that's also teaching them how to connect with the customers. Yeah.
And from everything you've said, I think you've answered your own question from earlier on about hospitality. It comes back to this cohesiveness and the loyalty and close-knit aspect of the team that then
Yeah.
gets extrapolated out to all the other stakeholders, the guests and the owners, and no doubt your community as well. I cannot believe how the time has gone in this conversation.
I know, right?
I know.
I always say I have time blindness when I'm talking to people, and it is exemplified right here.
You are absolutely great to talk to.
You are too. Thank you.
I've loved this. And looking forward to when we get to meet again. And next time we're going to sit and talk about manifesting, because that's one of my favorites.
I'll come visit you, or you can come out to the mountains anytime you want. You just tell me where and where.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Let's just wrap it up with your favorite books.
Okay.
What should people be reading?
Okay, so I have so many, but let's just do like the top few. Okay, so obviously Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. Like, this is a must. It is a great and easy read. Everybody go out and listen to it or buy it. And if you're not going to, write me a note and I'll send it to you, because I have a huge company library. I do that library thing that Tony Hsieh did. So I have tons of copies of all these books. So anyone who wants one, just tell me. Okay, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. Tribal Leadership, Dave Logan, and a couple other authors, but Dave Logan's the one I remember. The Four Agreements, it's Don Miguel Ruiz. I think it's so good. I just read, I think it's called The Big Little Things or The Little Big Things by Tom Peters.
Yeah.
I just finished it recently.
That one somewhere. Yes.
I love it. I love Tim Ferriss's books. It's Tools of Titans. And there's another one.
I'm just looking back in my bookcase, and I've got
it's all of them.
The 4-Hour Chef, Tools of Titans.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, these are
the
all really good.
Work week.
I mean, yes. Okay, you know what? Here's another one. This is like off topic, but I feel like this book is a life changer for a lot of people. The Body Keeps the Score. Have you heard of this book?
I have not. No.
I think it's like Bessel van der Kolk is the author. This book is amazing. It's all about how traumatic things in our life affect our body and how it affects. And it sounds a little bit rough and but anyway, it's a really interesting book. Okay, and then one more, The Happiness Hypothesis. Can't remember the author's name. He's amazing. And, there's all this happiness psychology books out there. This one is like very sciencey. So it's not fluffy. It's like a sciencey read. It is so cool. It talks about all different things from the science side, not like the manifestation stuff. This is more about looking at religion and looking at family connection and all these different things. And Happiness Hypothesis is a really good one. But yeah, I'll stop. I could go on. I am an obsessed book reader the last like 5 or 6 years. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I love my books. I've got stacks of them, and it's I don't tend to pick them up and read one all the way through. It's just I've got half an hour. I'm going to pick up a book. I'm going to open it and then see what comes out at me.
I listen on Audible. I obsessively listen to books, like when I'm working out, when I'm blow drying my hair, when I'm driving in the car, like you name it, I am listening to a book. Don't
waste a minute.
I can't. I swear it's that or the podcast. All the podcasts for vacation rental themes. I'm like obsessed on that too. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a moment in my life where that's my thing.
Well, I'm going to make sure that all those books are listed on the show notes. And
awesome.
So that if anybody's thinking about starting a library, and I love the idea that you have a library for your team, I recommend doing it for sure. You recommend doing that for every company.
My team listens. Yeah, they read the books, they listen to them. We pay them 150 books each time they read a book, and they just have to write a couple sentences. And it's awesome to watch younger people. Here I'm in my late 40s and I'm finally doing it. And the younger people are learning it earlier. I'm like, yes, learn it now. Don't wait till you're like in your midlife crisis. Start now.
Yeah, exactly. Rachel, it's been fantastic talking to you.
Yes, I agree. It was great talking to you.
Just such a pleasure. I will look forward to catching up again at a conference near us at some point over the next few months. But for now, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. What a great conversation. So I hope this episode sparked some thoughts for you on what culture really means inside your business. Her story is such a great reminder that culture doesn't get created by accident. It's truly built, one intentional action at a time. So we will come back and explore this topic in future episodes, particularly as we continue working with Casago, that has such a strong culture. I'd love to hear your experiences too. How are you building loyalty within your team? What does that culture look like in your business? Really take some time to think about it. Do you feel you have a culture? I think if I go back to my time at Cottage Link Rental Management, I'm not sure we ever really thought about the culture of the business. I'm sure there was one there, but we weren't intentional about it. And I know if I was starting this all over again, culture would be something that would be driven into the pilings of the business from the moment we started. So thanks again for tuning in, particularly if you've just listened to this for the second time round. If you found value in the conversation, please consider sharing it with someone in your network. There are hundreds of podcasts now out there about short-term rentals. It's not as easy to be heard and be seen as it was 14 years ago when I started this. So I'd love it if you would share it if you liked it. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of our leadership series. We've got more great insights coming your way. So until next time, take care and you keep being extraordinary. It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.